How much research goes into developing your work, and how did you engage with the primary materials and blend them into your writing?
Seems to get bigger with every book. With Kokoda, I like to almost use my ignorance as a tool, if you know what I mean. I like to display a refreshing ignorance in that when I started writing Kokoda, I didn't know how many were in a platoon, a company, a battalion. I wasn't quite sure where the colonels and the captains and the second AIF, what that was all about. I had ignorance on that. So when I'm researching Kokoda, I don't take for granted the knowledge of the reader, because I, as the author, didn't start out with great knowledge of what it was about. And so the way I wanted to do it was a lot of books, and for each author to do it as they want. But if I'm to describe to you such an event as Kokoda or Tobruk, my instinct is to start with the spot. Here is the spot where a great battle will take place. And I like to do wide concentric circles, starting out way, way back and getting closer and closer and closer, looking at what were the Japanese doing in New Guinea? What was that about? What were we doing there? More to the point, what were Australian soldiers doing in that far-flung spot on the earth called Tobruk, and what were the Germans doing there? I mean, how many people know why Germany would send a force that strong with Rommel and the Afrika Korps to this tiny little spot in Africa, and they came up against who? Austrians? No, it's just Australians. I mean, what was that all about? Why were the English there? Why were the New Zealanders there? And so for me as an author, I wanted to understand the spot, the forces that brought everybody together in this one spot at this one time, and to understand why that battle at Tobruk and the battle along the Kokoda track, to understand why it was so important. To do that, I read very, very widely. I talk as widely as I can. I go to the people that know, the historians, and I must say, just about every man jack of them and woman jack of them have been fantastic to me, to say, this is what happened and you should look at this and you should look at this, and, the Australian War Memorial and these transcripts, and have been very helpful in guiding me through a very thick jungle.
Did your interpretation of the Tobruk campaign change throughout your research process?
Well, my interpretation, I say, the truth of it is I started with a profound ignorance. I didn't know what happened at Tobruk when I began. All I knew was it's a name that resonates. It resonated with my mum and dad. I knew that they felt that Tobruk was important, El Alamein was important. And so when the idea came, the way it worked was I'd written Kokoda Track, I'd done Nancy Wake, they'd both gone well, and I was staying up in Tamworth, just briefly passing through my aunt and uncle's place. And they put me in the guest room, and sort of as dawn fell in this unfamiliar bed, and I wake up, there was this sort of frame certificate on the wall, and it said, Rats of Tobruk Association, and it clicked. My Uncle Ted must have been a rat of Tobruk, and over breakfast we began to talk about what happened. He was moving the salt and pepper shakers, and from memory I think the pepper was Rommel and the Afrika Korps, and the salt was the Australians of the 20th Brigade, and I began to realise, gee, this is a strong story. This is a really strong story that the might of the German army, led by Rommel, falls upon these Australian forces who held them off once, held them off twice, and then held them out for the next 9 months. What a good story is that. As I say, an historian may well judge that as the significance of this was that they couldn't get this, therefore what followed afterwards was all affected. What I most liked was the story part.